So welcome to Album Reviews. This is a series in which we talk about albums that have just previously come out during this year, and we're trying to do it pretty up to date. So we're reviewing albums that have come either like 2 months prior or a month prior. But for this first episode, we'll be talking about the new Car Seat Headrest album, Making a Door Less Open. So, singer, songwriter, Will Toledo, aka Car Seat Headrest, has been a big name in the indie rock genre for a bit now. And ever since his album from 2016, Teens of Denial, a lot of people have been asking about where else would he go, and I think also people were really interested to see where he would take his sound from 2018's Twin Fantasy. And with Making a Door Less Open, and I'm not saying like it's a bad record or anything, because it's not. It's a pretty good album and it fits into the Car Seat Headrest discography. But it can come off a bit jarring. Anything within the experimental genre, either where it comes to indie rock or electronic music, then this might be like a huge turnoff to some listeners. But on the first opening track, we have Weightlifters, and it is a type of staccato lead, very, I don't know, it feels very like bouncy with the synthesizers that it has throughout the track, but it also feels like a return to form, and it feels a bit more intimate and triumphant in a sense. And some of the singles that do pop up on this album, such as Martin, There Must Be Blood, or Hollywood, are pretty welcome additions to the catalog of Will Toledo. And it's surprising to see how some of the members do pop up on this album quite frequently, such as Andrew Katz. And I do think that this album is just a bit more frantic in its energy, while Teens of Denial is very, intimate, and it's also very raw in how it presents itself. I do think there's something very special about Making the Door Less Open, where it feels still very intimate, but very sort of robotic, but not in a bad way. Some of the more challenging tracks, such as There Must Be Blood, Hollywood, find Will Toledo having his experimental tendencies, but also shining through them. While I do think this is a great record, I also think that there are some slight mishaps that do happen. I do think it's great that they're trying different things, and Will Toledo is also trying to grow as a songwriter, but I do think some of these electronic moments do tend to suffer. And for example, some of the singles that did come out for this album, such as Can't Cool Me Down, were kind of weak to begin with. But there are some unnecessary additions here, or some unnecessary moments that really do tend to hurt the album. So such as the remix of Him, this makes absolutely no reason to have it on here in the track listing. And I say this because it just feels like the most cluttered mess that Will Toledo could think about and try to like make it blend. But some of the other tracks, such as, Deadlines, both versions, Thoughts and Thoughtful and Hostile, I do think they're welcome additions, and they also tend to show, some of the more poignant lyrics from Will Toledo. But I'm gonna admit that this album just ends badly. On the last third, that's where this album does tend to suffer quite a bit.
You what?
And There Must Be More Than Blood is actually a really good track. I do recommend anyone to listen to it. But I do think it tends to suffer because it does run overly long, and it takes quite a good while until the song fully develops. And Famous also feels kind of it doesn't feel like it gives enough closure as an album closer. Something of this, velocity, and also just being this abrasive in nature, like you would imagine that it would kind of close it off a bit more cohesively, but it kind of doesn't. It just kind of like ends. So I wouldn't say that Famous is really, the closer to this album. But if you're a fan of Will Toledo or Car Seat Headrest as a whole, or you just enjoy Toledo's production work, I do think you'll be quite surprised. And it's nice to see that Will Toledo, his inspirations and influences are grown beyond that, just being influences, and he's making it his own. For my final verdict on this album, if there are some tracks that I could recommend, it would definitely be Weightlifters, both versions of Deadlines, so 3, Hollywood, Martin, and There Must Be More Than Blood. But some of the other tracks that I personally did not enjoy to my taste would be How Long There Must Be More Than Blood was.
You what?
Life Worth Missing, and also Remix of Him, because I felt like it was unnecessary. So did you enjoy the new Car Seat Headrest album? Let me know what you think about it, and also like and subscribe, or leave us a suggestion for another album that you would like us to review that came out this year, or an album that just came out, you know, 20 years ago. For example, we might have a Fiona Apple Title album on the way. But yeah, stick around for the next video and hope to see you soon.